All right, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Building Bridges. And this time, what we have live for you, we have two good brothers, one from out in Las Vegas and another brother out in Arizona. And we're going to be talking about autism awareness. And what I want to do is I want to let these brothers introduce themselves. We're going to start off with our brother, Marcus Boyd. So, Marcus Boyd, tell the people a little bit about yourself, sir.
Hello, everybody. I am Leonardo Boyd. I am a four-time award-winning autism activist. I am a 13-time award-winning music producer, composer. I am a CEO of different businesses. I'm a gospel rapper. I do a lot. I'm a CEO of the A Collection clothing line. I'm one of the founders of A3 Shoe Apparel. I really do a lot, but the main thing I do is to be able to give a voice for autism, inclusion, acceptance, awareness, for autism individuals and autism families worldwide.
That's outstanding, my brother. I appreciate you. You said a whole lot, man. You got a lot going on, man. You got a clothing line, a shoe line. You're doing a whole lot of good things for the community, and I thank you for that. And we're going to come back to you in a sec. But now we're going to ask our brother John here to tell the people a little bit about himself. John.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Horton. I am the father of the one and only Derek Horton, who is an autistic 31-year-old man, mostly nonverbal. I mean, he has a few words that we communicate with, but most of our communication is nonverbal. We live in Las Vegas. Norman and I know each other from working at Best Buy. We've known each other for about 20 years now, and he has seen we've both seen our kids grow up the past 20 years. So we've been on this journey together, kind of, sort of. He knows a lot. I know a lot. It's fun stuff.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that, John. And brother Marcus, you didn't mention that, but I'm going to ask you, sir, are you an autistic man? How about that, right? Because I'm still learning the correct verbiage to say, and we're going to talk about that. And so I believe if I read your bio and it said that you were diagnosed at a young age and you were nonverbal for a while. Is that true?
That's true. Yes, I was born with autism. I got diagnosed April 12th, 1993, by Dr. King at Clifton Springs Mental Health Center in Decatur, Georgia. And I didn't start talking until I was 13 and a half at a 2-year-old's level. I didn't start talking like this until I was almost 18. I didn't start writing until I was almost 18. So, yeah, yes, sir.
That's outstanding, because the goal of tonight is to educate some people, right? As well as myself, right? Um, like John said, I've known them for over 20 years. Uh, started out as colleagues and ended up being friends, right? More so like family. And that's what I try to do with everybody that I come in contact with, is to be more of a family than it is friends, right? And
Exactly.
so we want to talk about that. We want to talk about getting educated about this. And I'm always looking for different ways to be respectful to everyone, no matter what. And so the first question that I have is really, what is autism, right? And so when I looked it up, there's so many different, depending on where you look it up and research, you get a couple of different meanings. But the one that I came to try to help me understand it even better was that it said a developmental disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact, which impacts the nervous systems. And the systems can range from mild to severe. So, can either of you jump in here? Let's start with John, and maybe give me your explanation of what autism is. And I understand your son is in a different spectrum, and I'm learning different words. So, if you will, John.
Yeah, he's in a different spot on that spectrum than Marcus is. Interesting kind of circular moment here. Derek was also diagnosed in 1983. It was at UCLA because we lived here in Las Vegas at the time, and no one here would diagnose a child with autism. We had to go see specialists at the time, but it was also in 1993. So that kind of hit me interesting when he said that. But yeah, everything you said there is textbook of it, but it's that, but it's so much more. The textbook, the diagnosis text, the DMS 4 or 5, whatever number we're on now, will tell you all of what you just said, but it doesn't tell you everything about the person. Just like saying, I'm a 55-year-old man. That okay, that's it. That's all you know.
Right.
So that's how it's all that and more, just like everybody else, kind of.
Gotcha. Understood. Marcus, I'm gonna bring you back in here, sir, and if you will, you're gonna have to unmute yourself, sir. There you go.
Yeah, so basically what autism is, you know, is a different type of situation for everybody else. Everybody has a different definition for it because it affects everybody differently. We all know, like Mr. John said, the textbook of it, but we don't know the everyday dealings with it. We don't know the everyday unless you're a parent, volunteer, or whatever. So I can't sit up here and say what autism is. I will say that autism, it comes with different things for each individual is different. So what autism is to me is that I had learning, communication, reading, comprehension, um, verbiage, nonverbal issues. I
Okay.
couldn't speak like the other person. I couldn't read like the other person. I couldn't do math or sentences like the other person. I couldn't understand reading comprehension like the other person may understand or whatever. And in my case, when we went to 11, 12 doctors, and when they said the same thing in different states, that the left side of his brain wasn't going to function correctly, he would need a caregiver the rest of his life. He would never be able to feed himself, clothe himself. If any education, it would be small, but we can recommend some medication that can probably help him along the process.
Understood. Understood. You know, that's a great breakdown from both of you. And to again to my viewers out there, we got a few more viewers that just jumped on. We're talking about autism awareness, and I have with us Marcus Boyd and John Horton, two good brothers, and we're talking to them from two different perspectives. Where John is the parent of an autistic man, and Marcus is an autistic man himself. So we're getting different perspectives. And so the next thing I want to do is I want to share my screen for the folks at home as well and for you guys. And I was talking to John a while back, and I was, I want to be able to say the right thing, to say the correct thing to someone, right? And so I want to show a couple of things on the screen, and I want to ask you guys, is this correct? Is this how we should be addressing someone that has autism, or is it or an autistic person? So take a look at these uh, words on the screen real quick. Do you identify as he, she, they has autism? Is it a person with autism? He, she, they are autistic, or a person that is autistic, right? And so these are the questions I believe that a lot of people that may not know what you're going through, or maybe don't have a family member or friend, or have no clue what it is about autism, how would they, or what is the proper way, or is there even a proper way to address someone that has autism? And so let's stay with you, John, and bring you back in here, sir. You can unmute.
First off, the fact that in this whole conversation we're at this point is amazing. It should have happened a long time ago, but for it wasn't. People didn't want to know any of this, 20 years ago. They just wanted to walk away from people. This is going to be like any other pronoun or any other group that identifies as something, anything. It's going to be up to the individual. I can't speak for Derek because he doesn't speak, so I don't know what he would choose here. When I tell people about him, I say he's an autistic man. It's
Okay.
now 31 years old. But in the past, I've used all of them.
Right.
It's just when I use it, it's to help other people understand it. So I try to use it in a way that I think will get my message and my point across to the person I'm speaking to. So whatever best fits the conversation I'm in.
Gotcha. Understood. And the reason why I asked that question is because when you and I were talking, I was kind of asking because I was trying to make sure that I wasn't offensive, right? That I didn't want to say the wrong thing because I'm not educated enough, because I don't. And guess what? I can't even say that I don't deal with anyone that has autism or doesn't have autism, because as you guys already explained, the range is so far, it's so far. It can be someone that is completely nonverbal, or it can be someone that has it, but maybe to the untrained eye, you don't know that the person has autism, right? And so you want to be respectful. So, John, I'm sorry, Marcus, let me bring you back in here, sir.
Okay. I'm like Mr. John. I have used he, they has autism. A person with autism. I still use I have autism, and a person that is autistic. Um, again, we don't know what's offensive because this is not a group type of situation. This is an individuality type of situation, which means that every person with autism, you only met one person with autism. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So you will have to figure out within that individual person which wording or which words would be better for that person to feel comfortable with.
Right.
And again, I don't even have a head on, but my kudos and stuff goes out to Mr. John because he's understanding his son from a different verbal standpoint. His son is using verbal, but it may be in different ways. So he's understanding and learning his son through the verbal communication that is given within them two.
Understood. And so my friend at home, my good friend Shalonda Davis, she says she has her oldest son is autistic. However, she doesn't introduce him as my autistic son, right? And so, and John, I mean, you're shaking your head, John, and so
Yeah.
that's just an assumption to me that you feel the same way, right? You don't introduce them as an autistic person, right? But
Correct.
should the conversation come up, you don't have a problem saying that he or she is, right? And so
Right.
this is good information, because I will say this, and John, I don't mean this in any slightness of the way, because you may have more information than I think, but in the Black community,
Mhm.
this is shunned. People don't want to acknowledge that
Mhm.
that their child may have this, or may have a trait of this. And so we sometimes, now guess what, it might be the same way in the Caucasian community, in the Asian community, but I don't know because I'm not them, right?
Right.
But I
Right.
just know from my perspective, it gets pushed under the rug. And if anybody out there
Mhm.
that's watching has a comment on that, please say something, and I'll be glad to share it with the group as well. But it's something that gets swept under the rug. Like, oh
Hmm.
no, he needs a whooping, or he just need to act right, or he need to get better, or something like that.
Yep.
But because you do that, you might be limiting, or you might be shortchanging yourself as a parent, as a loved one, as a
Hmm.
friend, to try to help this person. And Marcus, you look like you're ready to say something, brother. Come on back in here.
When I'm, you know what, I agree with you so much because if I done had so much holy oil on my forehead, I done been dipped in so much water for baptism. It's not even funny. You have to understand, I come from the Baptist, type of upbringing, so everything is a demon. So, you so I mean, when you talk about triggers or temper tantrums, and you supposed to be 10 or 11 years old, and you still having temper tantrums as of a 1 or 2 year old in public, out of public, in school, and stuff of that nature. So you got other church people looking at your grandma like, what's wrong with your grandson? Why you can't tame him? I done went from getting whoopings dead in church. The pastor was preaching, and I'm in the back pew getting my butt whooped. You understand what I'm saying? Uh, Taking me, dragging me for prayer and everything else to try to get the demon or the spirit out of me because why he's acting this way. And
Right.
again, in the early '90s, late '80s, this stuff was on hush hush. It was not like it was a bunch of groups that was going around and saying, "Hi, my kid has autism, and we understand what you're going through." There was no pamphlets, books, or I ain't know none. There may have been, but I ain't know no books or pamphlets that
Right.
help walk you or guide you through this process. So I mean, and especially in our community, we go to religion first. We go to God first.
Right. No, I completely understood. And John, I'm gonna bring you in a second, John. And Marcus, you said something, right? Obviously, it triggered me because everything about building bridges is centered around biblical principles and Jesus Christ being my Lord and Savior, right? But here's the thing: I'm the same way. My daughter was diagnosed with lupus when she was 12 years old, and I never claim it, right? Because I believe that Jesus can heal her and he will heal her, and he's doing great things in her life, right? But we also have to use wisdom. The Bible tells us how wisdom is more precious than rubies and gold and anything like that. With wisdom, and we have to be able to use wisdom to understand that there may be something going on with our children, with our loved ones, and so we need to find out. No one's saying don't go to the doctor, right? But make sure before you walk into the doctor, you say your prayer. You see what I'm saying? But we have to acknowledge, we have to know what's happening, what's going on, because the only way that we'll be able to, and I don't want to say fix, the word fix is wrong, but the only way we'll be able to identify and deal with it is to know. You have to have some knowledge. Come on, John, talk to me.
The only thing we need to fix is society. We don't need to fix Marcus or our kids with a whooping or tell them to act straight or do any of that. What we need to do is fix society to see them as the person that they are. All of that stuff they're doing is for one, for a reason, two, it's part of them. It's something they have to do. If the only way he can, Derek can communicate something to me is to maybe have a little bit of a meltdown or a tantrum or something. Even today, I mean, a couple weekends, last night, the internet went out in our house, and he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the only way he knew how to tell me that the internet was out in the house was to scream really loud. And
Wow.
yes, we woke up. And so, and that stuff would happen in stores and everything else. We didn't do church, so it would have happened there too. We did try him at church once. That's a whole nother story, but it didn't go well. Let's just put it that way. It didn't go well.
Understood.
Yeah, but I've been followed out of malls by security guards who thought I was abducting my own child because I couldn't buy him what he wanted,
Hmm.
so he had a meltdown, and I had to carry him out. Now I can't carry this 6'4", 270-pound man out now, but when he was 5 or 6, I could pick him up, put him on my shoulders, and walk out, and he'd be screaming like I'm abducting him.
Right.
And I'd have people looking at me, and and then things like he would lay down on the floor at the grocery store and kind of just stare at the ceiling, and they would come, the grocery store people would come by and say, "Is he all right?" I said, and I'd be like, "Yeah, haven't you ever wanted to do this?" And they're like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, that's why he's doing it. He wanted to do it, so
Right.
he's doing
But
it."
but that's great. That's great observation, and the people at home are also agreeing with us, with what I'm gonna say, you guys, and what you guys are speaking about. And I got comments. It was demonized, right?
Mhm.
People weren't as informed in the '90s as we are today, right? And another person said too much is dismissed in our communities, and I know what he's referring to. And guess what? It's not even just the black community that he's referring to, because this gentleman
Right.
that said something, is in an interracial relationship, right? So it's so much that's out there that we need to uncover, if you will,
Is it
right?
an illusion of normal? Is normal an illusion that's been fed to us from
Yes,
sitcoms and TV shows and books and other things that we've seen,
one
and
hundred.
and we have that predetermined what normal is going to look like, and then
Right.
something isn't like that, and we don't know how to handle it.
100%, I would agree with that, John. And then this brings me to this next point that I wanted to bring out here, because you talked about church, and my pastor friends is on here, my bishop friends is on here, and it's just normal, and it's how I carry myself. Everything is about the word. And so when you said this, John, you said that Marcus doesn't need to be fixed, Derek doesn't need to be fixed, and automatically, right, it brings me to what the word of God says. And what the word of God says in Genesis 1 and 26, it said, and God said, let us make man in our image. Who is to say that your image is better than my image? My image is better than your image, right? It's what the look is. And then he goes on to say, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male, female created he them. God creates his people. We are made in his image, in his likeness. And John, you said something that's resonating to me, that's sticking to me right now. And the fact that amazing brother here says amazing perspective, John. But what you said to me about not being fixed. And then I started to think also about the Bible talking about somebody being lame, somebody being blind, and things like that. But you can't fix this. This is not something that we fix. This is something that we learn about. This is something that we learn to manage, that we learn to love, because there's nothing wrong with them, with you. And even though we're having this conversation, it even sounds funny coming out of my mouth when I say them and you, because it still makes it like it's us against them mentality, and it doesn't need to be that way. Marcus, come on back in here. You had something to say, sir.
I mean, I just really want to say this, for people who are parents or volunteers or guardians of an autistic person, think about how we feel, the people who have autism. See, y'all are blessed enough to be able to watch us, help take care of us, guide us, give us wisdom and knowledge from a caregiver or parent or volunteer standpoint. But think about what we, the individuals that have autism, goes through. Nobody wants to throw a temper tantrum or have an emotional breakdown or unable to properly communicate what we want or what we may like, or we might have to yell or scream or hum or point or write down or listen. I mean, I'm January. I'll be 39, and I still have emotional breakdowns. Thank God, my team and my family is around me to be able to help me when I, have those issues. I mean, it can, just like John said about the internet, it could be something simple as the beat was off, a string was off, a melody was off, my TV is crooked, my blanket ain't folded right, and I'm having a whole emotional breakdown. I mean, I'm, I mean, it's real life. So no, we don't need to be fixed. But in the religious standpoint, we are taught that God can fix everything. Nobody's saying God won't fix it, and we need to stop leaning on our faults, and we need to give our cares and our fears to God and
That's right.
allow Him to change us and stuff of that nature. But why change something that God made? God made me this way. He made me to be autistic. So
Right.
in the same breath, you're asking God that He made me to be this way to now change me
Come
because
on.
you feel like now change me because you feel like that I'm carrying the demon or I'm not the way that I should be in your eyes and through your religious beliefs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, let me tell you something, brothers. I love y'all right now, man, because you're passionate and you're speaking truth, and the people at home need to hear it. And Bishop, you are so correct. Listen to what he said, right? Speaking of what you just said, Marcus, he says, we are created in the image of God, and society can't change it. Okay, society cannot change that. And so, oh man, this is good to me because we need to help one another. And that is, you guys are a prime example of why the Lord gave Building Bridges to me as a platform. All right, because it is outstanding, because I love helping people. I love getting educated myself. And the only way to learn about something new is to get educated on it if you don't understand it. We've been taught for years and years. Most people, what do you fear? You fear the unknown. Well, unless you get to know something about a topic that you don't know about, that you might seem a little leery or scared about, then you're going to always be fearful of that thing. All right. So I appreciate it. Yes, very well spoken, Marcus. Man, I'm looking at the comments. The people are talking to you guys, and I'm loving it. What's going
So,
on, my brother
so,
Robert Jones? Go ahead, John.
Norman. So, I think the bigger philosophical question we take away from this part right here, is where on the spectrum was God,
Mm,
right?
it's a good question.
Because if if Marcus and Derek were created in His image, right? There's a little bit of God in everybody. So where exactly was God on the spectrum? I'm thinking probably a little bit higher, but you never know.
Right.
We've never heard His voice. He could have been very nonverbal and communicated, you know,
Well,
with he
I understand.
communicated with creating.
I understand your a point, but there's been some to hear his voice, but I hear exactly what you're saying though, because but you're right though, because still in the sense of how many times have we ever heard the statement, and particularly we hear it when somebody passes away, God don't make mistakes. Well, hold up. If God don't make mistakes, then you got to believe it for everything. You can't believe it for some things and don't believe it for everything. You know what I mean? You got to believe it for all. You can't just say, you can't pick and choose what you want to believe. So we have to understand that. We have to come to an understanding that, hey, this is what it is, and so let's learn about it. We've now had something different. We've now learned something different. Everyone is not. It looks like Marcus. It looks like you froze up a little bit, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, you hear me? I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm
yep.
here.
I can hear you. I can definitely hear you. So speaking of that, Marcus. So do you understand what I'm saying here on that part that John was referring to on the spectrum, as far as us saying that if we're going to believe, we got to believe it all. We can't believe parts and pieces.
I mean, I do because my sister is an apostle. Her husband is the chief apostle, the Remnant Apostolic Center. So I understand it. Because we believe everything the Bible teaches and speaks on here at the Remnant Apostolic Center. So I do understand it, but from a sense of, well, we can just pray this out of him, or we can just have an altar call or something of that nature. My chief apostle preaches everything that happens in your life, God allowed it to happen in your life. So if this is happening in my life of having autism, that means God allowed it to happen in my life.
Absolutely.
So now the thing is, do I wallow or do I feel depressed or do I accept my defeat with autism or do I enlighten? Do I enbridge? Do I encourage? Do I preach inclusion? Do I
Come on.
preach awareness? Do I help change one's mindset of autism? being
Yes.
that I have autism.
Come on. That's, you just hit something that was so incredible there, right? Because so many times we do find individuals that may waddle in self-pity because maybe they don't have an encourager around them to help them get through. And guess what? That's part of what we're doing today with trying to get educated, because I guarantee you now that some of the people that are listening, and you hear the different range, the different spectrums that we're talking about, they might have somebody in mind that potentially, like, you know what, that might make sense now why this particular person act that way. Or maybe you can think back to a childhood friend that acted in a certain way, and you might go, you know what, man, I wish I would have known, because maybe I could have helped identify whatever it was, right? So this is a great conversation, man. Again, the people at home, I appreciate everybody that's watching, that's tuned in. Please keep the comments coming. Let me know how these brothers are doing. Let me know how I'm doing. Put the hearts up. Put those blue thumbs up, and let us know that we're doing something good and positive to try to impact autism and learn about autism. And so I want to move on to this next piece right here, brothers. And I'm gonna share my screen again. And what's happening here is that this spectrum that I just spoke of, right? I'm learning about it, and I pull this up, right? It says autism spectrum disorder. From my information, at one point, autism was known as ASD or Asperger's syndrome, different names. And if I'm wrong, I want y'all to talk to me, but let me go through this a little bit. And the words on the screen, you may not be able to see all of them, but it says executive function, sensory processing, repetitive behaviors, information processing, verbal, nonverbal communication, social awareness, motor skills, and perseverative thinking. That's what makes up this autism spectrum disorder. Now, I'm pretty sure there are more that go along with it, but the one I wanted to talk about was the perseverative one, and that it says it's the same thing, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then they can get stuck in their emotions and their actions and maybe even in their thoughts. But then sometimes it's also looked at as generally negative what they're thinking about or what they're going through. Are you guys familiar with this perseverative thinking? John, I'll let you go first. Unmute. Unmute, John.
I always forget that.
There you go.
Hey, I'm a rookie at this. Give me a
It's
break.
all good, brother.
Yeah, no, pervasive thinking disorder. Yeah, I mean, I know that. I live with that here. There are things. I mean, you've seen pictures I've taken of him. I mean, you've even commented on. I wonder what he's thinking about,
Right.
because he looks so thoughtful, because he is a thoughtful person. Even though he can't tell me that, I know he's a thoughtful person just by his actions,
Right.
and and how he reacts to himself, and others. But yeah, I mean, but it's part of that. So think about some of those things on that chart, and tell me which one of those things nobody does. Repetitive actions and things like that. Okay, how many people do you know that go to the same coffee place and get the same coffee every morning at basically the same time, and sit at their desk or their laptop or whatever at basically the same time? We're all regimented one way or another, whether it be due to work or our own choice, or if it's something in us that won't let us move to the next thing. But at some point, you do. I mean, I'm sure Marcus experienced this as a child and still may, but he knows that he's going to move to the next thing at some point. He's just got to work through it, and we all do that.
Right.
That's the whole thing about this, is everything on that spectrum, we all do. I mean, the behaviors that they're listed there, people do.
Right.
I mean, you're normal people, everybody does it. It's just a little bit different in everybody.
Right. Absolutely. So before I bring you in, Marcus, real quick, I missed this comment. So I got to shout her out. Lori Horton, Miss Horton, that is John's wife. She said normal is overrated. Absolutely. I understand. So God bless you, young lady.
Well,
I
she married
appreciate
me,
you.
so
Well, that's all right. That's all right. So come on, Marcus, talk to us, sir.
Um, all these titles that's listed, I experienced these over and over again, and I'm still experiencing them as an almost 40-year-old man. I am a man of repetition. I tell everybody that. I do the same thing, wake up at the same time every morning, drink the same type of juice or coffee, eat the same type of breakfast every single. I mean, yes, I mean, get the same low cut hair fade every single time I get a haircut. I mean, I mean, and Mr. John is right. It's not just us with autism. It's everybody in some shape, form, or fashion does does some or all of those titles that's listed on the picture. But
Right.
again, what we have to start doing is stop looking at autism from a textbook point of view. Stop
Mm,
looking at it as a diagnosis. Stop looking at it as something that you have to research or fix or heal, because this is there's nothing wrong with us. Actually, I feel sorry for everybody else because we get to think a little longer, we get to be quiet a little longer,
yeah.
we get to be still a little longer before we speak, move, or say or do anything.
mm.
So I'd rather be like this than be like everybody else.
I hear you, brother. I hear you, brother. And again, I'm hearing what you're saying, and like I said, my mind is always taking me back to the Word of God. And you just said something, man. You said you get to think a little longer, you get to be quiet a little longer, you get to, focus, right? And so a lot of times, guess what? People like me, we're trying to get in tune with the Lord, and sometimes things just come and just distract me. And like you said, man, you get to sit there and bask, and you have that time, right? And so that's what makes us all so special. That's what makes us all unique in our own ways, right? It doesn't matter if there's a spectrum disorder associated with us, because, like you said, if you flip the switch and you take a bunch of people that's in this spectrum disorder and look at me, the who society says is normal, which, by the way, being this big ain't normal, right? But I understand what you're saying, right? So we gotta take good with the bad, and man, this is just a good conversation, and I appreciate you. And Marcus, Lori says, well said, Marcus, well said. Um, so let's move. Let's
Hey,
let's move
one thing
forward.
real quick, Norman.
Oh, come on.
You know what's not on that picture, on that graphic?
What's
It's got
that?
everything. It's got everything from autism, but there's no Derek Horton and there's no Marcus. Oh wait, but they're autistic.
Right.
There you go. There's the thing right there. Like Marcus said, stop looking at this and look at the person next to you and
Gotcha.
decide. If you're a parent, okay, if you're a parent, you don't get to decide to
Mm,
love and understand your child. You have been given a child that you have to learn and understand, whether he talks or doesn't talk, whether he runs or doesn't run. You have to understand him. When I figured out that there was nothing wrong with him and that I needed to catch up with him and like catch up with Marcus, that's when my understanding and my learning and my growth, and I don't want to speak for Lori, but as a team, as the team Derek that we are, um, we grew at
mm,
different ways at different times, but that's how we looked at it. When we walked, and I tell people this, I said, when you walk into a doctor's office and you get a diagnosis of anything, basically, if it's not something that's going to kill your child or your loved one, basically you were just given a word.
mm,
I was given a easier. I was like, okay, cool, autism. Now I don't have to spend 30 minutes explaining why my son doesn't talk. I can just look at somebody and go, autism. I have a word and I can walk away.
mm,
And the other thing I tell people is you're going to walk out of that diagnosis with the same child you walked in with. That word doesn't change who you walked in with. It really doesn't.
That's outstanding, man. That is awesome.
Okay, I know, Mr. Norman. Listen, I'm
No,
just gonna
come on,
say
come
this.
on. Talk to us. Talk to us.
Listen. Mr. John is the epitome of what good, understanding, patient, caring, kind-hearted father is and supposed to be. Lord knows, if I had a Mr. John when I was 3, 4 years old, my life wouldn't went the way it went. Unfortunately, my biological father, big time, he didn't see it that way. It was 22 of us, and a lot of his sons were catching balls or playing basketball or doing the boy things, and because I couldn't do it, or because I, was using the bathroom on myself, or having emotional behavior in public or in the park or something of that nature, he didn't want to be around me. He shunned me. He said I wasn't his son. He, used to do a lot of horrific stuff because he didn't understand autism. He didn't understand why I will allow his son to be this way. He used to blame my mother for cheating on somebody that was like me to
Right.
have me. So all I would say is this. You understand what I'm saying? If you are a parent or a caregiver or somebody with autism, count your blessings. Get on your knees and thank God that He allowed you to carry this special gift to help raise this special child.
Come
Because
on.
if you don't think God don't know the ending when He gave you the beginning, He knows how it's going to end. You just have to walk the process through this journey.
Come
Keep
on, brother.
faith. It's going to get hard. It's going to get hard. You're going to get depressed. You're going to get stressed out. You're going to feel like it's too much. You're going to feel like, oh, I just can't take it no more. But don't let your child see it. Don't let your child hear it. Just because your child is nonverbal, that don't mean that they don't can't hear. That don't mean they're not sponges. And we have to stop saying that our children is nonverbal because they verbal. They just verbalize in a different way.
Wow. That's outstanding, sir. Listen, I already know the people at home, man. Like I said, they feel the passion in your voices, and I'm thankful to you all. Let me share this story. Um, I've had many people say, "Hey, man, won't you do these every week?" Let me tell you something. This thing is hard, right? Doing this building bridges thing, it is hard. It is hard work. um Putting together the content, it is hard, and guess what, it's just as even harder to reach out and vet people that you want to talk to, because everyone I talk to, I have to let them understand that we're going to talk about Jesus at some point in the conversation. I want to have real live conversations and true demanding topics, but it takes a little bit more. So I don't just invite anybody. I don't just want to talk to anybody. I want to talk to people that's going to help me, one, get educated, and two, educate somebody else, right? And so I'm thankful to you guys. I saw brother Marcus there. I don't even somehow on the internet, someplace you were speaking, you were doing something, my brother, and I'm like, man, this brother is doing some things with autism, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to reach out to this man. I don't know him. I never met him face to face, and I reached out to him. And I asked him, and I introduced myself. I put my social media contact and everything out there, and asked him would he be on the show. And I'm gonna tell you, he responded in like within the hour, and we've been talking ever since. And so I'm appreciative of you for coming on this platform, man, and coming here raw and authentic the way that you are. John, I already knew what I was getting from you. As a matter of fact, I'm so thankful, John, that you are keeping it PG for me, and I appreciate that. All right, so
It's not
because
as
I
hard as
know
I thought.
actually it's not, right? it's,
No,
it's, it's
it's
really
not.
not,
It's
right?
not.
So I'm thanking God for you guys. I'm thanking God. And wow, I'm going to move on to this next one, because John, you started to allude to it a little bit. And in my research, here's what I found, right? I'm going to read this, not read it, but I found that not even everyone in the autistic community is fond of the symbol, the puzzle piece. Okay, not everyone, right? Because
Yep.
I was doing some reading, and I mean, when I say doing some reading, I was reading, like reading up on it and trying to understand the differences and why some like the image of it or why some don't understand it. And when you talk to someone that doesn't know about autism, the puzzle piece, honestly, is what gives us the symbolization of autism. If you ask me before today, what does this puzzle, and you only show me the puzzle pieces and not the word autism, I would know that that's what it was meaning, autism. And then I started reading up on it, and a lot of people in the autistic community don't agree with it because of the stigma that it may have, because they say, some people say that it represents that something is broken, and there is nothing broken, as we just talked about, right? So I want to get both of your perspectives on this. I don't know how each of you really feel about it, but nonetheless, again, we're here to educate. It's not about if we agree or disagree, but it's about educating and getting your perspective. And Marcus, I'm going to start with you, sir.
Okay, so in the almost 5 years that I've been an autism activist, there's a lot of people that got on me for using a puzzle piece. I got puzzle piece shoes, I do, and I'm about to have a puzzle piece jogging suit. But I choose to use the puzzle piece
What?
for me is because I am 38
Right.
years old, and it took pieces of my life to put it together. It's not to be offensive to nobody. It's not to say I don't honor a next person's beliefs. And I include the infinity sign. I agree with it. Some people don't like to light it up blue, or some people don't like the infinity. Some people don't like the puzzle piece. In this world, we can't please everybody. We have to do what is best for you. I like the puzzle piece because it stands for Marcus Leonardo Boyd. Because not because I'm broken, because with God I was able to put my pieces back together again.
Come on.
So each piece is a puzzle. Each piece was a mystery for me because I was out there lost because I didn't understand who I was first as a man or anything else, and I was battling dealing with my autism. So yes, each piece became what this picture is, which is Marcus Leonardo Boyd.
Awesome. Awesome. Absolutely awesome, sir. Um, John, I'm gonna bring you in here. I do know for a fact, John, like I said, I don't know your complete thoughts on it. I know a little bit of what you think on it. And this is what's beautiful about it, is because it is your perspective. It
Mm.
is what it means to you as an individual, or to what, because I'll be honest, right? I read some of the comments, and I kind of agree on both ends of the spectrum, no pun intended, but I kind of agree on, I see positive and some negatives on both sides, depending on who's making that argument. So, John, I'm gonna bring you in here now and talk to me about this puzzle piece.
First off, I loved Marcus's description of that. That was one of the best, uh, explanations of a puzzle piece from an autistic person I've ever heard in my life. That was beautiful. Um, I don't even know where to start on this one. um, Literally, 1993. Lori and I were 24 when Derek was born. Um, we didn't know where to go. We didn't know what to do. So there was nothing. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't, there wasn't puzzle pieces everywhere. I walked into, at the time, what was the only autism society, I guess, or organization, um, local, which was the National Autism Society, I believe.
Okay.
Um, and their logo was a silhouette of a little boy with the side of his head chopped off and pieces coming out. And I looked at it and went, that's not my kid.
Right.
He doesn't have, there's nothing, there's nothing oozing out of his head like pieces falling apart.
Hmm.
So it kind of freaked me out, to be honest with you. Now, to say that I've never acknowledged it or used it or put it on something promotional that I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. Looks like John had he was going somewhere, but looks like his internet cut out on him, and I apologize for that. As soon as we get him back, we'll let him come back in here. Oh, here he comes.
There I come. Sorry.
That's all right.
Somebody up. There's somebody with a puzzle piece that's hacked into me. I don't even know where I was. So let me just jump back. So we jump forward to 2004, 2005, and all of a sudden this blue puzzle piece pops up on TV. And it's kind of, at first it kind of felt good that we had this kind of one thing that we could be under. And it got popular and it raised a lot of money, and it represented a side. You have to remember, it wasn't started by autistic people. It was started by parents that honestly were afraid of their children. They didn't know what to do. They were lost. They were the broken puzzle. The parents were, not the kid. The parents were. They were trying to work through their own puzzle, like Marcus described. He was doing. But it became kind of strangely, when you get that kind of money into a cause, and you're always going to have friction with that, and people took it to a bad place to where it did have bad connotations for autistic people. Autistic people were kind of beaten over the head with puzzle pieces in some cases, and they don't see it as something good. Marcus, like I said, has a fabulous perspective about it, but there's other people that their lives didn't turn out like Marcus's, and that puzzle piece represents a painful time for them when they knew that their parents thought they were broken and needed to be fixed, and did things that they thought, a whooping at the church, or here, use this puzzle piece to whoop your kid or whatever. I don't know. We didn't really go that way. We went so I wanted to do something that represented Derek. So I know you've seen this before.
Absolutely.
He wears headphones. He has hyper hearing, basically. White noise drives him nuts. The echo in a bathroom he'd walk around with his hands in his fingers, or his fingers in his ears all the time. And in 2004, a very smart teacher at a summer camp, while he was having a meltdown about a lawnmower, grabbed another child's headphones and put them on Derek, and he hasn't taken them off since.
Right. So
17 years in headphones. Hey, 3M, you need to start making those again, by the way. Just saying. So the red headphones represented Derek. And Derek was changing his world. He was changing my world. He was changing the world around him. And he was hopefully, like Marcus was saying, putting his own puzzle together, while his mother and I were putting our own puzzles together. And his brother Kyle was putting his puzzle together too. Because siblings is a thing. Siblings of autistic, Marcus, 22. My goodness. That's like an offense and a defense. Siblings have a say in this and a part in this as well. We should do this again and have a brother or sister of, one of Marcus's brothers or sisters, or Kyle Horton, or anybody, and get their perspective too, because that's a totally different thing than even mine and Marcus.
Right.
So
I can imagine. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, people through history have taken icons and done good things and bad things with them, and the puzzle piece is just an icon that got attached to autism. So people are going to have either positive or negative feelings about it. I'm, kind of about it. I'm a red headphones guy. I believe red is the new blue. I feel like Derek's lucky to have headphones, like Marcus is lucky to be still for an extra minute and think for an extra minute. Like Derek filters out all the BS with those headphones, man.
I understand, man. I understand. And your wife has given us the I want to say the correct term. Hypercusis stage 3 is what his hypersensitive hearing is, right?
My wife is always the nurse.
Your wife is awesome. So wait, So I got the red shirt on, right? I was
Yeah.
trying to find. Do you remember years ago you gave me? I have a band,
A wristband.
a
Yeah.
wristband, and I couldn't find my wristband. But shout out to Derek because I got some red headphones right here. All right, I got some red headphones.
There you go.
All right,
Red is a beautiful color.
it's a beautiful color. And so,
Well,
again,
look. I'm sorry, Mr. Norman. I'm gonna say this. You
come
know,
on.
you make sure you give Mr. John my number. And not only do I want to help endorse the red headphones because I'm a headphones guy myself.
All
You know what I'm
right,
saying? So I mean, being as a music producer and composer for 21 years is all I had was the headphones.
right.
So I definitely want to endorse the product. I love it. I seen it and stuff of that nature. And more people in the autism community and worldwide, not just in the autism community, everybody need to have a pair of red headphones
How
from
about
Derek.
that? Come on now, that's what I'm talking about. Now look. I'm not saying that I put this together, but I'm just saying when you guys blow up and get those millions, just remember me and bring me on your show. How about that? That's all right, man. I appreciate both of you. I'm loving this, man, because this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do as brothers and sisters. So much is going on in the world right now with a lot of hate, based on color and creed and your backgrounds. And here we are talking about something that has zero to do with that, but more about people, more about loving one another, more about learning about others' differences, right? And coming together. And this is what we need to do. And guess what? We need to do this in the church and we need to do this outside of the church as well, right? Because this is only going to help us. This is only going to help the people that watch this, not only tonight live, but people that's going to watch it later on. And we just need to be together and continue to love one another. And listen, man, I'm not going to belabor this, man. I'm just going to move my paper out the way and be done with that. And John, I'm going to give you the first crack. Give us some closing statements. Tell the people whatever it is you want to tell them about autism, about this call, about whatever you want to talk about, for the next minute or two, and then we'll come to Marcus. All right. I love you too, Lori. Unmute, John.
Oh, you missed when I said I love you.
I love you too, brother. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to wrap up. There's still a lot to say. We should do a part 12 one. This should be a limited series on HBO Max.
That's awesome.
Where do I go? So it's in a parent's perspective. I don't want to, even though my child doesn't speak, I never want to speak for him, but speak through my experiences with him of what I think is happening at the moment. I would encourage that way of thinking to other parents. And something else that I've always said, especially to fathers, because men have, like Marcus said, with his own experience with his father, men have a problem with this. Men have a serious problem with this. One of the proudest moments of my life was when one of my personal heroes, my father-in-law, Jim Pachek, came up to me, many years. I mean, Lori and I will have been married 35 years here in a couple of weeks,
Congrats.
20 years in, and said, "I'm so proud of you." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I am so proud of you." He goes, "You know what? I read on the internet that 80% of fathers of autistic kids leave their kids."
Wow.
And I said, "Yeah, I've read that too." He goes, "You didn't leave." I said, "No." He goes, "You didn't even think about leaving." I went, "No, those are my kids. Both those kids are my kids.
Right.
Derek is now my best friend other than Norman Murray." There's nobody else I would really rather hang out with than Derek Horton and Lori Horton and Kyle Horton and Norman Murray and Marcus.
Nice.
So what I have said to men is, first off, once you have a kid, it's not about you anymore.
Come on.
It's about the kid. That child is not asking you to be perfect, but that child is asking you to be present. So you don't have to be perfect, but you have to be present. And by being present, it means there in the room, when things happen. And honestly, some of the biggest problems that Lori and I have had over the years with Derek is when we couldn't all be in the same room. When we were traveling with our jobs, you know how that is. He was going through puberty, and I was on the road with the project team.
Right.
And that was hell. It was hell for her at home dealing with it. A large young man going through hormonal changes, and he doesn't really even understand the full concept of going to the bathroom and the toilet. That was a challenge. But and I wasn't present for a lot of it, and it caused problems. So being present means actually being there. It's putting in the work, it's putting in the time, it's understanding your child for who they actually are, and teaching yourself how to make that child the best possible adult and person he can be. Now, when he was young and born, I had dreams of him pitching for our New York Mets,
Right.
or playing quarterback for whoever. But I think he has touched more lives and changed more perspective as the person he is right now than he ever could have been as a celebrity or a sports star or anything like that.
That's outstanding, John.
So he has, I consider that he helped change the entire attitude on autism in the city of Hillsboro, Oregon, where we lived for 20 years, because we went everywhere. Right. We went everywhere, and everybody saw the kid in the red headphones. And the people at the Albertsons next to our house that we went to all the time didn't know my name for 12 years. They just knew me as Derek's dad. And then I went in there one time by myself, and they're like, "Oh, John, nice to meet you." I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" Right. You can just still know me as Derek's dad. That's fine.
Right.
So, love your kids. Be present. Red headphones rule.
John, man, that was outstanding, man. I appreciate that. Everybody, John Horton, CCO at Red Headphones for Autism. Look him up. You can find him on Facebook, and I'm sure I know he's on Instagram. All the artwork that you see in the background, Derek created all of that artwork. So John,
Derek and Dad stuff.
Well, I don't know too much about Dad. I know it's mostly Derek. Derek.
Yeah, I know. You know who the real talent is around here.
Absolutely. So John, again, man, from seriously, from the bottom of my heart, my brother, I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on here and chatting with us.
Anytime. Marcus, this is my favorite topic.
Absolutely, man. Well, hang tight, John. We're not done. But Marcus, come on in here, sir.
Okay, so again, red headphones rule. You know what I'm saying? That's the nation. That's the movement. Period. You know what I'm saying? So, again, I want to piggyback on what Mr. John said. We have to understand. You have to understand as parents, caregivers, volunteers, foster parents, whatever you are to an autism child, individual, teenager, adult. It starts with caring, compassion, understanding, love, non-judgment. And when Mr. John said that he didn't leave his children, I was over here fighting tears because I wish, at almost 40, I can turn back the hands of time. I wish that if my father would have got educated, the ignorance probably wouldn't have been there. We only know what we taught. So, he was like that because he was taught to be like that. He didn't want to change, to be able to show compassion and understanding. And, Marcus is just like any other person's child that has autism. I am your child, basically, because I have autism. I've been having it all my life. So there is no face of success. Mr. John's son is a celebrity. He is successful. He is out there. He is changing lives. He is impacting lives with the red headphones. Because honestly, we ain't know who made Clifford the Big Red Dog, but every child in the early '90s was reading Clifford the Big Red Dog. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So, just look at your child, look at your situation with love, no judgment, no, like I wish this wasn't my child. You need to be happy that it is your child, because that it could be much worse. And if God didn't want you to have that type of child, He would never gave you that type of child. There's a reason for everything. So you have to figure out through God the reason why He gave you this special gift. He knew that you can. God ain't gonna give you nothing more than you can bear.
Come on, talk to him, brother.
So we just have to be good stewards in our faith and our walk with God and Jesus, and we just have to know that God is in the forefront and we just in the driver's seat.
That's awesome, brother. Man, I can't tell you how blown away I am by both of you tonight. You know, the people at home, do me a favor, please. The people at home that are still on and watching, let me see those hearts. Let me see those blue thumbs. Let's put those things up. Let's put those cares up there for these two brothers in this conversation because it has been incredibly impactful. It has been incredibly awesome. One of my brothers, Robert, on here, you were talking, John, about the statistic with the 80%, and he said, "Man, I never even knew." Thank you for those, for the all that love, all that love. He said he never even knew those statistics, right? And so, man, you guys have educated us well tonight, and I'm appreciative of you all, both of you, for all the people at home watching, being educated. Hello to everybody. My mom is out there. My wife is out there. My cousins are out there. There's other people watching on YouTube and Twitch TV. God bless all of you for watching tonight. You're right, though. We need to do a part two. So you know, look for that, everybody. Look for that. You know, one thing I do very quickly want to show everybody. Let me share that screen one more time. Hey Nika, what's going on? Is that next month, at the next Building Bridges event, this is what's coming up for next month. It's called In Mourning Yet Motivated. You know, something. I have a young lady. She had her mom passed, and she's building a business and a future. She's in mourning, yet she's motivated to continue to move forward, and everything she does is trying to live up to her mom's standards and do things in remembrance of her. The brother Keith Jefferson there, he's lost two children to street violence, and he ran for want to say mayor. He ran for mayor of St. Louis, Missouri, and he's out there in the community. He's an activist. He's an entrepreneur. And then the young lady at the end, Diane Bookman, she is a licensed clinical social worker. So we're going to talk to these three individuals, and we're going to talk about being in mourning, because we got to understand that not everybody mourns the same way, and not everybody mourns in the same time frame. So we're going to talk, and we're going to have her on here to help us out if anybody needs any additional help. It may get a little emotional, but that's all right. But that's what we're here to do. We're here to build bridges and help people. And so, yet again, my brothers, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you again, everybody at home, for tuning in to Building Bridges, and we will talk to y'all soon. Hey, that is Derek right there. Everybody say what's up to Derek, and see those red headphones. God bless him. That's my man D. That's my man Big Derek. You know, Big Derek broke his toe a couple of days ago or last week. And then like 2 days later, he was in the pool swimming. I was like, man, that broken toe had no effect on him getting in the pool, you know.
That
But
was a
that's Derek.
serious broken toe too.
It
I mean, there
was.
was
It
three
was.
places. It was ugly. But no, he just kind of
Absolutely.
taps on it and tells me it hurts. I give him some ibuprofen and good to go.
Awesome. All right. Well, good night, everybody. You guys hold tight 1 second for me.